This is my epigraph by Gilbert Durand. Consciousness has two ways of representing the world. One is direct, according to which the thing seems present in the spirit as in perception or simple sensation. The other one is indirect, when for whatever reason the thing cannot present itself in flesh and blood before the sensibility. For example, in the memory of our childhood. When we imagine the landscapes of Mars when we grasp the orbit of the electrons around the atomic nucleus, or in the representation of a world beyond death. In these cases of indirect consciousness, the absent object is represented to the consciousness through an image, in the broadest sense of the term. The sleek buildings piled up like they had just arrived in a drunken empire. That was not a downtown, but an alien refuge. Or at least, that's what Julia thought when she saw the architectural amalgamation. There they tested the most ingenious engineering in concrete art, reaching limits never before touched. No explorer would have the courage to raise his ship to the height of the clouds or the contaminated fog surrounding that land's altitude. The sea mists were one thing, but the dry gray of the days was another. One of the buildings had the giant arms of a monster with huge hands at the top, where a tiny heart-shaped cloud formed. Ben couldn't understand how they could keep the cloud in that place. It didn't move with the wind or dissipate with the humidity swings. On the ground, holographic ads for all the brands in the world appeared and disappeared. At one point, the story of an Asian beverage was told by a long sequence of luminous holograms with projectors installed on the hand building. This advertising spectacle caught the attention of the coastal couple. In one of the first holograms, they saw a man on top of a buffalo, drinking what appeared to be a soft drink. An emperor poured the drink over the women around him in the next hologram. They were concubines, perhaps. They laughed and enjoyed themselves as they gulped down the yellowish soda. In the next hologram, people in military uniforms drank it with the same exhilaration. Even in the scenes that were recreated times more than a millennium ago, the soda can was the same. Perhaps it was a product that remained the same, existent beyond time. Many people were buying things in vast warehouses. Everyone who passed near them carried several bags. In groups of 4 or 5, many teenage girls would share caramelized fruit kebabs as they walked. Sometimes, as the teenagers passed Julia and Ben, time seemed to contract. All the images would slow down as if they too were tired due to the elevated temperature and the stuffy air of the city. That was when they could see the caramelized fruit kebabs in detail. They glittered like a toy strewn with lights. While eating a shiny piece of strawberry, the teenage girls looked alike. The same reddish eye makeup, bangs, and beige and puffy shirts. Julia was exhausted. She could feel a truck drifting down her spine. It was probably the jet lag. The rickshaw driver dropped them off at the entrance of the plaza of random skyscrapers with neon holograms and slow-motion teenagers. They passed by something like an X wall. They weren't sure because no one took pages out of the dictionary to stick them into cliffs. But they were earth bodies and tree cities. No one here wants a meta-narrative stuffed into a glass gondola, easy to see, impossible to touch. Julia's tongue moved with an inconvenient sloppiness. She had gone to bed with the words closed. They were in a park, and nature vibrated inside them. The world's beginnings seemed to be on the tip of their tongues, but blurry, whose stage was a massive park with a majestic lake in the center. Faded fingers tripped from vocabulary across their tongues. Outside, the breath had a bronze timbre. There was an organ that didn't work, and Ben repeatedly got up. Broken light bulbs in the middle of the grass. A poem written by a contemporary, which they had no physical ability to read. Ben felt uprooted. His stomach recoiled from the light. Julia had a text distilling with distant words. Ancient stone tablets slumbered beneath the people. A naked haze waited for the porcelain teapots. The apartment building was a kind of unlikely child caught between the teeth. The dialectic protects no human face. One could look at the successive 50-story buildings knowing they would look back at us. The difference between the two observers simultaneously observed was that which exists between the creator and the thing being created. Among so many, the creation is only episodic, such is its reality experience. Yet, all life events are grouped into representations. Nothing accounts for them, and nothing is a direct consequence of them. When Maddy's parents moved into the apartment, the neighbors knew about it. They often commented on the mental health of the dog that seemed exasperated by its reflection in the canal water, saying this dog has no issues whatsoever, but it wants to die. He's running along the canal as if it wants to retreat. I mean, he's trying to drown itself. It throws itself in and wants to stay there. Big and heavy as it is, it flamboyantly manages to fall and does not even fight against it. I have rescued it 4 times, and it always comes out smelling like a latrine of rotting meat. I must put my clothes in the washing machine as soon as I get home and under the shower to avoid this odor ingrained in me. Maddy found that whole conversation quite unusual. She had never seen the dog outside the boundaries of the Shanjia apartment building. It was a small dog, so she could not understand why Mr. Yu insisted that he had seen a large, heavy dog that was deliberately left to drown like that. The yellowish sky and the sandy air that floated between the gaps of sparse gray light invited you to wear some glasses. Maddy did not need them, but she wore glasses and often put earplugs in her ears. It was uncomfortable when the airborne sand got into her holes. She could feel the yellow color of the grains darkening in her eardrum, distorting the sounds from her cornea to her optic nerve. That day, she left the house around 5 in the afternoon. By bike, it would take about an hour to get to the other side of the canal. Carelessly, she pulled out her cell phone to unlock one of the shared bikes in front of the apartment. The brakes were rusty, and the pedals made a suspicious sound. The bike sometimes stopped completely as she pedaled, thrusting the most mechanical rattle. It has its intimacy with the wind. Whenever it stopped blowing, the bike stopped moving. The winding road between the floods of buses, bicycles, motorcycles, motorbikes, scooters, rickshaws, horses, brakeless pedestrians, and the yellow dust barely entering people's vision field went dark.